My dad left my mom in February last year brutally. Their marriage lasted 30 years. He has been living and working in Africa since around 2016. Before that, he earned a great deal of money working away. He sold my mom this vision of riches and endless retirement. They basically spent all their incredible substantial savings on his business, but it has never made any wealth. I would say they were easily millionaires. My mother definitely sold her soul for the good life. She stopped working part-time in her mid-50s to do housework and watch television, basically. Before that, she raised 3 children almost solo, with my dad being away a lot for his work prior to Africa. Her community is very small as she has no family, does not work, does not volunteer, and has no true close friends. Anyway, he got caught cheating. In hindsight, I cannot believe I never pulled them both up and pointed out how crazy it was for them to live apart for years, regardless of how inappropriate that might have been, and then sent my mom a long email saying he was leaving her. They are both terrible communicators, and neither believes they need help to recognize their needs. Their values are also twisted up. They are both obsessed with money. I haven't exactly cut my dad out, but he's not part of my life, and I have now made peace with that. He values making money, I guess. He probably loves me, and I guess I appreciate that, but it's a pretty empty relationship. I don't know if my mom is capable of understanding love. Maybe. She's obsessed with my dad, but only as far as he can provide money to her so she can continue her standard of living. Every conversation I have with her comes down to the same things. He needs to pay up. I am going to run out of money. I need this house in my name so I can sell it and use it to fund my retirement. I won't divorce him, or I will have to split the house. I appreciate how terrifying it must be to have your income cut off and feel like there's nothing you can do. Basically, Dad's business apparently makes little to no money, so he apparently sends little to none to her. But who knows what is true? He apparently lives in Dubai. My mom is obsessed that he is living and working, how, I don't know, and not sending her money. Meanwhile, she definitely lives very comfortably. When I encourage her to get out of the house and live her life, she says she hates everyone, she hates him, repeat above quotes, she'll never trust anyone again, and she just wants to hate the world. My entire life, my mom has been uncompromising, brittle, quick to explode, emotionally manipulative, and emotionally immature. I was told several times as a teenager that nobody would ever love me and that I would be alone. My sister and I were hit a few times. Screaming was quite common. She can also be incredibly generous, social, and warm. She almost never asks questions about my life and constantly asks my husband to help her with jobs around her property. She also declared herself a willing babysitter and support should we ever start a family. True to her uncompromising characteristic, she has not moved an inch. She's now also so discriminatory, it's like you couldn't make it up. She is in exactly the same headspace she was in March or April last year. I believe if Dad said he was coming back tomorrow, she would take him back. Even after all the horrible things she has said, yes, my dad should provide for my mom after her being a stay-at-home mom while she raised children as best she was able. But he's not going to. He has no intention of doing so. He's not coming back. Mom won't seek legal advice because that costs money she doesn't want to spend. She won't go to therapy. Yep, full stop. She won't consider that Dad left for any other reason except that he is a terrible person. Her behavior over the years is simply not a factor she's capable of considering. She won't do anything except remain in her comfort zone of hate. How can I navigate my mom's endless cycle of hate without invalidating her suffering and grief? It's not my responsibility to be her therapist, though I have tried, but how can I be my best self for her? I'm not sure she necessarily deserves it, but a part of me believes our purpose in life is to serve one another. I don't think that precludes my mom. Now for an update. Mother wants to live in hate after relationship trauma, and I don't know how to navigate it. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Life is hard as it is without having toxic people in it. We have the choice to make for our own sake as we cannot fix anybody. They have to want to do it for themselves, and that just doesn't happen in many cases. So all that is left is to leave them behind. Comment 2. Thank you. This is really constructive. I've definitely put a lot of distance between us for my own sanity. I'm just not sure how to close down this hopeless conversation cycle when it kicks off, but I'll figure out a way. It does nobody any good. Now, for the update. 2 days after my last post, I found my mom in the living room, scrolling through her phone with a blank stare. I asked her what she was looking at, and she barely responded, just muttering something about money problems. I noticed she hadn't looked at her bills, which were piled up on the coffee table. I suggested she talk to a financial advisor, but she snapped at me, saying she didn't need help from anyone. I decided to visit my dad's old office, hoping to find some files that could help my mom with her finances. When I got there, the office was locked and empty, and I felt super frustrated. I called my dad to ask about the office, but he didn't answer. While I was there, I ran into a former coworker of my dad's who mentioned that my dad had been seen in town recently. This made me curious, so I started asking around my neighborhood if anyone had seen him. I found out he had been seen at a local bar, which was surprising since he left for Africa years ago. I confronted my mom about it, and she brushed it off, saying it was just another one of his lies. Later that night, I got a call from my brother Jake, who wanted to have a family dinner to catch up. I agreed to the dinner and invited Olivia to join, hoping it would lighten the mood. At the dinner, my mom spent most of the time talking about how she was wronged by my dad, ignoring the rest of us. Jake and Rachel announced they were expecting a baby, but my mom barely acknowledged it. After dinner, I pulled Jake aside and asked him if he'd heard about Dad being back in town. Jake confirmed he had heard similar rumors, but he didn't think it was true. I decided to drive by the bar after dinner, hoping to see if my dad was really there. To my surprise, I spotted my dad outside the bar, talking to a woman. I parked the car and watched them for a moment. I approached them, and my dad looked shocked to see me. The woman introduced herself as someone from his past business ventures, claiming they were just catching up. I confronted my dad about his absence and how it affected my mom. He brushed it off, saying he didn't owe anyone an explanation. When I got home, I told my mom what I had seen. Instead, she doubled down, saying he was just a coward and didn't deserve her time. I organized a family gathering for the upcoming holiday, inviting everyone, including my dad, to finally address the issues. My mom reluctantly agreed to come. The day of the gathering arrived, and my dad showed up late, with the same woman from the bar. The atmosphere was tense as we all sat down for dinner, but I pressed on, starting a conversation about my mom's feelings. My dad tried to dodge it, but I brought up the money situation and how it was affecting everyone. After a heated exchange, my dad finally admitted he had lost a lot of money and was struggling to get back on his feet. My mom's reaction was intense. She accused him of lying and running away from his responsibilities. In the end, I laid out a plan for my dad to help my mom with her finances while dealing with the emotional damage done. Surprisingly, my dad agreed to it, and my mom reluctantly accepted the idea. Everyone left the gathering feeling exhausted. I spent the next few days helping my mom sort through her bills. I just feel so drained, man. Like I thought things were going to start getting better after that family gathering, but they're not. I mean, sure, my mom's letting my dad help her with some financial stuff, but she's still in this dark place and won't talk to anyone about her feelings. It's like she's got this wall up and no one's allowed in. And my dad, he's trying to be there for my mom, but she's acting like he doesn't deserve her time or attention. It's just so frustrating seeing them both in pain and not being able to do anything about it. I'm feeling stuck and don't know how to help them, or even if I should still be the one to try. I'm not doing well, so any advice would be much appreciated. Edit. I want to clarify that my mom and dad are not getting back together. The arrangement is purely financial, and my mom is adamant about keeping it that way. My dad understands this, but still hopes for reconciliation, which my mom firmly rejects. I haven't seen the woman my dad brought to the family gathering since. My siblings are supportive of me, but they are also dealing with their own challenges. I'm considering speaking to a therapist for additional support. Am I the idiot for refusing to propose to my financially irresponsible girlfriend who ruined her car and bought a new phone without telling me? My girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years. We have lived together for 5. In that time, she has changed careers 3 times, went back to school for an associate's degree, graduated, and now is working while trying to get her license in her field. When we first moved in together, we split all the bills in the house 50-50, including groceries and dining out. Her first career move was leaving her highest-paying job, which required a bachelor's degree, to go back and work in coffee. When she made this move, I took over all bills except for half of our mortgage, which is $250. She worked there for around a year and then quit to go back to school for an associate's degree. From there, I took over all bills and the majority of groceries and dining out. So for 3 years, I provided full financial support while she's been in school. The stress from both jobs is why she quit each of them. She's been graduated for about 6 months and is working full-time in her new field, making a low salary of $16 an hour until she can pass her state boards and earn approximately a $4 to $5 an hour raise. She did not pass her test the first time and is scheduled to retake the exam. I'm getting frustrated with her lack of stability when it comes to her own finances and her inability to contribute to our mutual bills. Most recently, she drove 3,000 miles overdue for an oil change and ran her car completely out of oil, ruining the engine. She said she did not have the money for an oil change. She has no savings and no way to get to work. To help her get back and forth to work, I loaned her my vehicle and then bought a used car with what savings I have built up. I spent the last week fixing the car so she could drive to work. It's a nice car with low mileage that needed significant frame repairs, which I was able to do by sourcing parts and completing the repair myself in my garage. She orders takeout and smokes marijuana. I have confronted her about these 2 habits, and she denies or downplays the frequency of her eating out and smoking. Still, there are almost always takeout bags in our trash or in the back seat of her car. I really don't care if she smokes or orders takeout, but given the financial situation she is in, these are not the best ways to use her income. We have probably attended 6 weddings this summer, and she is putting pressure on me for an engagement ring. I don't feel like I'm ready, considering how she is navigating life. It feels so unstable, and I don't know what situation we would be in if I weren't able to cover our expenses. I feel like I have no backup if something were to happen and I couldn't earn. I have been extremely patient with this whole situation. I don't want her to be stuck working a job she doesn't like. And I understand that sentiment because I don't love the field I am in now. I work full-time and have a side business based on my hobby that takes up many of my Saturdays in the summer and some weeknights. I am getting by, but saving very little, and I feel like I am falling behind on my financial goals, which include getting out of debt and saving for our next house. I don't want to feel this way, but I can't help but think that if the roles were reversed and the boyfriend was bouncing from career to career without providing financial support, the outcome would be swift. How long do I wait for her to figure it out? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your girlfriend is lazy. Your girlfriend is immature. Your girlfriend is selfish. Your girlfriend has 0 self-pride. Your girlfriend can't manage life. What does she contribute to your partnership? If the answer is nothing substantial, then why do you want to be in a partnership with this person? Comment 2. It's time to lay everything on the line and tell her that you are seriously considering ending the relationship. She needs to get a job, pay for half, or move out. No more covering her bills. You know she won't change. Stop wasting your life on a good-for-nothing. Now, for the update. A couple of days after the last update, Olivia finally took her state boards again. I helped her study for a couple of weeks, quizzing her on topics she struggled with. I was really trying to help her pass. The day of the test, she seemed anxious but hopeful. I waited for her to get home, pacing the living room like crazy. When she walked in, her expression told me everything before she said a word. She didn't pass again, and she was clearly frustrated. I suggested we celebrate her effort with dinner, but she declined, opting for takeout instead. I reminded her about budgeting, but she insisted it was her treat. She never treats us. During dinner, I noticed she was scrolling through social media, looking at engagement posts. She casually mentioned how it would be nice to have a ring soon, referencing a friend's recent engagement. I changed the subject, talking about my side business and some recent clients. She seemed disinterested in my work, more focused on her phone. A few days later, I went to a family gathering for my sister's birthday. Olivia came with me, and my parents were excited to see her. My brother Jake and Rachel announced they were having a baby, which got a lot of attention. My mom asked me when I was proposing to Olivia, joking about how the family needed more weddings. I shrugged it off, feeling the pressure from everyone. Olivia's expression changed. She was quiet after my mom's comments. Later, I overheard her talking to Rachel about wanting to take our relationship to the next level. That night, I asked her about the conversation with Rachel. She dismissed it, saying it was just girl talk, but I could tell she was bothered by something. Tension built as she started to withdraw from conversations. A few days passed, and Olivia mentioned feeling overwhelmed with everything. I suggested we sit down to talk about our future. During our conversation, she brought up her frustrations with my financial concerns. I explained my viewpoint, emphasizing the importance of planning ahead. She got upset, saying I didn't trust her to handle her responsibilities. I reminded her about the failed car repair and her spending habits. The argument escalated, and she stormed out, going for a drive in my car. I waited for her to return, and when she did, she looked shaken. I asked where she went, and she avoided answering. I confronted her about her spending, and she snapped back at me about my lack of support. The next day, I found out she bought a new phone without telling me. I suggested we cut back on unnecessary purchases, leading to another argument. She accused me of controlling her decisions, which I didn't intend to do. We both needed space after that, so we agreed to take a few days apart. I spent the weekend focusing on work and my side business. I got a message from Olivia, saying she needed to talk. We agreed to meet at a local diner to discuss everything. At the diner, things felt tense. She had a serious expression on her face. She revealed she found a job opportunity that required relocating, which could pay significantly more. She wanted me to support her decision, but I hesitated, feeling it would disrupt our stability. Edit. After discussing the job opportunity, I realized how serious Olivia was about leaving. She expressed frustration with my lack of support and mentioned needing a fresh start. We talked about our relationship and her career goals. Ultimately, she decided to take the job and move, and we are on a break now. Am I the idiot for breaking up with my boyfriend who refused to grow up and face reality? Like the title says, I have a boyfriend of 2 years. He and I are in different stages of adulthood, I guess. Maybe that's not the right way to say what I'm trying to say. Anyway, he and I are at different points. What I mean by that is, I have a decent job. I am a correctional officer at a state prison that pays well, provides insurance and a retirement plan. I can have a car and my license. I'm actively trying to move out of my parents' house and have a savings account. My boyfriend, on the other hand, has none of that. He isn't trying to move out of his parents' house. He works with his dad, which wouldn't be bad if the work was consistent and not a few weeks between jobs. They're contractors that get houses ready for sale. But no houses are really being sold right now, doesn't drive or have a license, and isn't trying to do either. Has no savings put aside, owes almost $1,000 to the Internal Revenue Service, but doesn't save anything from his paycheck and hasn't made a single payment, and just overall has no drive to do anything other than stay up all night and play video games. I don't know what to do. I've tried to help him by offering to try to get him a job at my unit for now. Even if it's part-time, part-timers work 2 days a week, 3 max, and are still getting around $2,000 a month, or to come full-time, and I'll talk to the warden to see if he can be on the same shift as me. He refused and threw a fit, going on a rant about not wanting to work for the state because of, well, simply because he doesn't want to work for the state. He also stopped talking to me for a couple of days afterward because he got upset about me bringing up him getting a more stable job. I've also offered to help him get a car and his license. I told him I'd pay for the classes and help him find something reliable, even if it's used. He refused and got upset and claimed I was calling him a loser. Never once did I say or imply that. A new store, similar to Lowe's or Home Depot, opened up by his house, and I suggested he apply there since it would be more consistent, and he wouldn't have to deal with 199 EMESC forms for the next tax season. It's a 5-minute walk, max, from his house. He said he didn't want to work with the public. As for his Internal Revenue Service debt, again, he's paid nothing. He has until December to pay it all off. I offered to help and work some overtime to get some of it paid off. He refused. I've talked about moving into an apartment or townhouse near my job, and he keeps talking about how we are going to move in together. At one point, I'll admit, I did make a remark along the lines of, "How are you going to get to work? I won't have time to drop you off, come home, pick you up, then go to work. You're not going to move in with me unless you get yourself a means of transportation and a consistent job. I'm not going to do the work of 2 people by myself." He didn't like that and proceeded to not talk to me for about 2 days. I just don't know how to proceed with this. Anytime I try to talk to him like an adult and be honest with him, without being rude, he takes it as a personal attack and shuts himself off or sulks. And anytime I try to be a little more gentle with how I say things, he doesn't seem to take it seriously. I told him that he can get arrested or put in prison for not paying taxes, and that if he gets incarcerated, we're done. I'm not going to have a relationship with an inmate. It can cause not so great things to happen with my job. He takes it as a joke and says, "But babe, then we can spend more time together. You can stay in my cell with me, and I'll be your favorite inmate." Anytime he says anything like that, it irritates me, since I've told him I'd instantly fill out paperwork to keep him off my unit, and if he was still there, he'd get treated the exact same as any other inmate. If I don't get put under investigation and fired or walked off before, I'm just at a loss as to what to do. I love this guy so much, but this is making me feel distant. I don't want to break up with him, but this is just getting to the point where I feel like I'm being held back by him since I'm waiting for him to catch up. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're 20. You've both literally just stopped being children. He is living a pretty normal experience for a 20-year-old. It's great that you're making good money as a correctional officer, but he's at an age where it's perfectly fine to stumble around and figure yourself out and what you want to do. You should move on to someone who is more your speed. Comment 2. Your boyfriend is indeed immature. He's only 20, so he can still grow, but not if you keep on enabling him. Leaving him might be the best choice for him as well. It will show him that his actions, or lack thereof, have consequences. I would also add that you are very young as well and should not be parentified at that age. Now, for the update. A few days after that awful family dinner, I was working a shift at the prison and overheard some officers gossiping about my boyfriend. Apparently, there was a rumor going around that he was seen hanging out with a known troublemaker in our town. At first, I brushed it off as just a misunderstanding, but honestly, it kind of stuck with me. It felt like one of those things that just wouldn't go away from my mind, you know? So after work, I decided to drop by his apartment unannounced. I figured I could surprise him and maybe we could talk about how his life was going. When I got there, I noticed the door was slightly open, which felt odd. I pushed it open and called out for him. The place was dark and quiet, and I instantly noticed several empty energy drink cans on the table. The TV was on, showing a paused video game, but he was nowhere to be found. I glanced around, feeling really uneasy, and then I spotted a bag on the floor. Inside was a receipt for a gaming tournament that had happened over the weekend. He never mentioned participating in any tournament to me. That was it for me. The next day, I confronted him about it during a video call. He vaguely brushed it off, saying it was no big deal and that he didn't want to bother me with it. A week later, I went to my younger sister's birthday party at a local bowling alley. Of course, my boyfriend was invited, but he claimed he had a last-minute work thing and couldn't make it. During the party, my sister mentioned that my boyfriend seemed to have more free time lately. That's when I got a text from him saying he was too busy to come to the party. Then, out of nowhere, I spotted my brother-in-law chatting with a friend about a recent local crime wave. The friend mentioned seeing my boyfriend hanging out with that troublemaker I heard about. My heart sank, and I just had to leave the party early. I drove straight to my boyfriend's apartment again. His car was parked outside, but the apartment was dark once more. I knocked on the door, but got no response. My gut told me something was off, so I decided to call him. He didn't answer, which only made me more worried. The following day, I confronted him in person, asking why he'd been so distant. He got defensive, saying he was just stressed and busy with his life. I pushed him about the tournament and the rumors I heard at work, and let me tell you, he got angry. He accused me of not trusting him and stormed out of his apartment. I was at my breaking point. I reached out to a mutual friend who knows more about my boyfriend's recent activities. The friend was aware that he had been acting suspiciously and offered to help. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop to discuss everything. At the coffee shop, the friend revealed that my boyfriend was seen at the troublemaker's place, and there were also rumors of him getting involved in illegal gaming bets. I set up a time to visit my boyfriend's apartment, pretending to bring him lunch. I told my friend to follow me to see if he was truly at home. When I arrived at his apartment, my friend stayed outside to keep watch. My boyfriend opened the door, looking surprised to see me. I casually asked about the tournament and the troublemaker, watching his reaction closely. He stammered and avoided eye contact, confirming all my suspicions. After an uncomfortable exchange, I left, knowing I had enough evidence. The next day, I confronted him with the information I gathered and his evasive answers. He tried to deny everything, but I laid out the facts, and he crumbled. I told him our relationship was over. My friend gave me a thumbs up from a distance, and I just walked away. Thank you for reading. To answer a few questions, I did not go to the police. The rumors were about him, not me. I didn't want him to know I was gathering information. The friend who helped me knew him well, but wasn't close enough for him to suspect anything. My boyfriend has no criminal record. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.